Mycobacterial infections. Now, under this heading, we'll be discussing about cutaneous tuberculosis and leprosy. So, cutaneous tuberculosis and leprosy. Let us first discuss cutaneous tuberculosis. So, cutaneous tuberculosis. Cutaneous tuberculosis can be divided into three depending on source of infection. Like if the source is exogenous or it is endogenous. So, it can be exogenous type of cutaneous tuberculosis, endogenous type of tuberculosis, or it can be tuberculids. Now, the examples of exogenous are tubercular chancre. The second example of exogenous is TBVC, that is tuberculosis verrucosa cutis. It is also known as anatomist wart. So, tubercular chancre, TBVC, which is also known as anatomist wart. Then endogenous. The example of endogenous are lupus vulgaris. The example here is lupus vulgaris. Second example is scleroderma. And third is orificial tuberculosis. Now, one important point which you need to remember here is, vulgaris means most common. So, this is the most common type of cutaneous tuberculosis. Now, scleroderma is also the most common type, but in children. So, this is the most common type in children. And this orificial tuberculosis, this occurs due to auto-inoculation. See, actually, you will find that in some books, lupus vulgaris is mentioned in both the list, that is exogenous as well as endogenous. So, lupus vulgaris can be exogenous as well as endogenous. Like the example of exogenous is, if there is infective sputum of the patient lying over the floor and a child sits over that sputum and develops a lesion of lupus vulgaris, that is from the exogenous source, isn't it? But most of these cases have hematogenous spread. So, I have included an endogenous list. Okay, so it is included in both the list, exogenous, endogenous, but most of the cases are hematogenous in spread. So, this is endogenous commonly. Scleroderma is contiguous in spread. Like if there is lymph node and then the skin involvement occurs, then this is scleroderma. Okay, so this is contiguous. So, hematogenous lupus vulgaris, contiguous spread is seen in scleroderma, and auto-inoculation is seen in orificial tuberculosis. While tuberculids is due to mycobacterial hypersensitivity. So, this is due to mycobacterial hypersensitivity. Now, let us discuss them individually. So, first heading is tubercular chancre. So, let us write down few points in tubercular chancre. So, in tubercular chancre, you can write down it is primary inoculation tuberculosis. See, this is a very rare type of tuberculosis, and why this is so rare? Because you know that the primary tuberculosis occurs in lungs, isn't it? And the first focus which is formed is known as Ghon's focus. Okay, but if before pulmonary involvement, if the patient is not exposed and the first involvement occurs in the skin, then the first ulcer which is formed over the skin is known as tubercular chancre. So, tubercular chancre is the type of primary tuberculosis. Next point you can write down, it is analogous to Ghon's focus seen in lung. So, it is a primary inoculation type of tuberculosis. It is a rare type and it is analogous to Ghon's focus seen in lung. Now, this is the type of chancre, and this tubercular chancre presents with ulcer with undermined edges. So, ulcer with undermined edges are seen. Undermined edges. Now already questions have been asked on undermined edges. So undermined edges are important. So remember, they are also seen in, so undermined edges, they are also seen in chancroid and pyoderma gangrenosum. So now you know three important conditions where undermined edges are seen: tuberculosis, chancroid, pyoderma gangrenosum. Next is TBVC. TBVC is also known as anatomist what? You can write down TBVC, that is tuberculosis verrucosa cutis. Now this is tuberculosis verrucosa cutis, and it is quite obvious from the name itself, that is the lesions are going to be verrucous. So lesions are verrucous. Verrucous is the term used for warty lesion. So lesions here are warty. So they are wart like. So verrucous, warty, single lesion. So generally the lesion is single. So verrucous, warty, single lesion over exposed areas. So over exposed areas like feet or dorsum of hand. So over feet or hand, these are the common sites where these lesions start developing. So verrucous, warty lesions which are single, and they start developing over exposed areas like feet and hand. Now why it is known as anatomist wart? Because this type of tuberculosis commonly occur over the exposed areas of anatomy professors and pathologists. Why? Because while doing cadaver dissection or while handling these tissue specimens, they acquire this infection. Okay, so this type of infection is also known as anatomist wart because it is commonly seen in anatomist and pathologists. So another name for these warts is, another name is anatomist wart, because they look like warts and they are seen in anatomy professors and pathologists. Now since they look like warts, it is very important to differentiate viral warts from anatomist wart. Now how you will differentiate these two conditions? First, you can simply count them. So if you count them, you will find that viral warts, as I have already shown you in the images, they are generally multiple, while this is single. If you see in duration, so other few differences are induration, scarring and discharge. So all these are absent in viral warts, while they might be seen present in anatomist wart. Induration present in anatomist wart, scarring is present in anatomist warts, and it is generally central. And this discharge is also sometimes seen in anatomist wart, and it is serous. So serous discharge. So these are few points which you can remember. So number, induration, scarring and discharge. So you can make a very simple mnemonic here to remember, and the mnemonic becomes ISD number. So this is a very simple mnemonic to remember the difference between viral warts and anatomist wart, that is ISD number: induration, scarring and discharge, and number. Then the third is lupus vulgaris. I already told you this is the most common type of cutaneous tuberculosis. You can note down few points. Presents with erythematous or violaceous plaque. So presents with erythematous or violaceous plaque. So in one of the exams, this question was asked, and the question was that which of the following is a plaque type of tuberculosis, and the answer was lupus vulgaris. Okay, so this is erythematous plaque, and like I told you that tubercular chancre is primary tuberculosis, TBVC is post primary tuberculosis. So this is post primary, and it is seen in individuals with good CMI. So in bracket of good CMI, you can write down resistance. So these individuals have good CMI. So once this question was also asked that which of the following is a post primary tuberculosis with good resistance, answer was TBVC. So this is post primary tuberculosis with good resistance. If they ask you which of the following is a plaque type of tuberculosis, lupus vulgaris. So erythematous or violaceous plaque with central, I already told you, central scarring. So if you recall, central clearing, tinea, central crusting, leishmaniasis, and central scarring, lupus vulgaris. So with central scarring, which on diascopy, that is pressing the lesion with the glass slide. So when you press the lesion with the glass slide, what happens? This erythema disappears. So it blanches the lesion, this erythema disappears, and then you can see, so which on diascopy show golden brown apple jelly nodules. So many times this question have been asked. Apple jelly nodules are seen in. So golden brown apple jelly nodules at periphery of the lesion. So you will find golden brown apple jelly nodules at the periphery of the lesion. So always remember these three important points about apple jelly nodules: seen in lupus vulgaris, finding of diascopy, and they are seen in periphery of the lesion. So central scarring, periphery, apple jelly nodules. Now when you will examine these lesions, you will find that initially they have central scarring, but gradually one margin extends while it heals on the other side. So you can write down this point. These lesions extend on one side, leaving behind scarring on another. Okay. So generally these are asymmetrical lesions with one active margin, and on the other side they leave behind scarring. So they extend on one side, leaving behind scarring on another. Next is scleroderma. Now scleroderma is the most common type in children, and as I told you, it occurs due to contiguous spread. So cutaneous involvement occurs secondary to underlying tubercular focus. So there is some tubercular focus which is lying beneath, and due to this tubercular focus, what happens, that overlying skin gets involved. Let us consider this is the overlying skin and this is the underlying tubercular focus, and this focus can be in the form of, in bracket you can write down of focus. So in bracket of focus, lymph node, bone, or joint. So this focus can be in the form of lymph node, bone, or joint. So tubercular lymph node, bone, or joint is present. Let us consider this is that tubercular lymph node. Now this lymph node ruptures and involves this overlying skin. So it presents with multiple sinus. So next point, presents with multiple sinus with discharge, and the caseous necrosis which is going on in this tubercular lymph node, it comes out. Okay, so multiple sinus with discharge and violaceous perilesional skin, and since the necrosis is going on beneath, the surrounding skin appears violaceous in color, dark in color. Okay, so with violaceous perilesional skin. The most common lymph node involved is cervical. So cervical group of lymph nodes are commonly involved. Next is orificial. Now orificial tuberculosis is not very important, so just note down 2 points. First, we already know it is due to autoinoculation, and since it is due to autoinoculation and it is quite obvious from the name itself, orificial, so orifices are commonly involved. So the lesions are around lips, so perioral and perianal lesions are present.